Let's have a look at today's front pages for you. They all lead on the Prime Minister's illness. Boris taken to hospital is the Daily Mail's headline. It reports he was admitted as a precaution after showing symptoms of coronavirus for 10 days.
The Telegraph leading on the same story, but also devote a large chunk of their front page to a picture of the Queen, who addressed the nation yesterday, telling us all that better days will return. She quoted a bit of Vera Lynn as well, didn't she?
She did. We can actually hear it shortly, actually. The Metro reports on what it calls fears around the Prime Minister's health. It also features the news that Dr Catherine Calderwood, we've just talked about her, has stepped down as Scotland's Chief Medical Officer after she was photographed breaking her own social distancing rules by visiting her second home.
And that story is the front page splash of the Daily Record. Its headline says that Dr Calderwood can now stay at home for good. It's a really busy sort of end to the day yesterday, wasn't it, with the Queen addressing the nation at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it really was, and then we had the news about the Prime Minister, was it just about 9 o'clock as well?
And that was just between 9 and 10, wasn't it, about
Do you know
Dr.
what?
Calderwood?
So much going on. We should have a look at the inside pages as well.
Yes, go on then.
This is a story I'm quite interested in, actually, and lots of people, this is really important. NHS chief have asking analysts to identify and target patients who may actually be placing themselves at risk by avoiding hospitals. Doctors are concerned that they're not seeing the expected numbers of stroke or heart attack sufferers. The number of people turning up at A&E apparently is down by about 50%. And what they're concerned about is some people may be, having serious problems and not, quite rightly, concerned about the impact on the health service, not contacting the NHS, but they're saying that that also, GPs are still open. You can still call your GP if you've got something else that's not to do with coronavirus, and they will respond to you. Robert Francis, who's a cardiologist, says we're seeing patients coming in later. They're trying to convince themselves that chest pain isn't serious because they're worried about coming into hospital, and that's real concern from doctors, saying delayed treatment could result in unnecessary heart failure for a lot of people and death. So that's kind of like unexpected, unintended consequence, isn't it?
Whenever you say we're going to play the Queen in full shortly, did you see? I saw quite a few people asking about the size of the crew that were in the room.
There was only one person. One
yeah.
person, wasn't it?
It's a lot of pressure, isn't it, to get that right?
You definitely want to get.
You definitely want to get that right, don't you? Lots of talk on the back page of the paper today. Might get some of this with Sally a bit later on about Premier League pay. Apparently there's all sorts of high-level meetings going on at the moment. There was one over the weekend where Premier League owners and executives and some representatives of captains were there. Only a couple of captains were actually allowed to speak. Kevin De Bruyne was one of those. About pay cuts, and Stars says here demanding the clubs prove their need to impose a 30% pay cut. The captains of the Premier League clubs have been speaking to each other about...
What do you think is going to happen?
I think there's a lot of player power when it comes to this sort of thing.
Okay,
and
interesting.
I think that the thing that that often gets forgotten. I think last year, £1.3 billion worth of tax is paid just by Premier League players.
That was the point they were making, wasn't it?
And what they're saying is that there's always been that drive to give to charity, and I think they're more than happy to do that and would want to do that, and probably do that off their own back, without pressure from government and people speaking out against them. And I think that will happen. It's just a case of the complicating issue is these clubs sort of furloughing their non-playing staff. So there's loads of elements to it, but I'm sure the players will get what they need to do in the end.
We've been trying to take some positives this morning. We've been having a great time looking at some of London's attractions online. So you might fancy a tour of Buckingham Palace after feeling inspired by the Queen last night. The British Museum, the Natural History Museum, the V&A, the Science Museum, the National Gallery, they have all reported big increases in people taking their virtual tours and looking at their virtual collections. And have a look at this footage. This is Jess, the zookeeper, at London Zoo with Zena, who is a serval, allegedly a ferocious predator found in Africa. She doesn't look that scary, though, does she? And listen to this. On Thursday, James Corden streamed One Man, Two Governors via the National Theatre. More than 2 million people watched that. So there is lots out there to keep you entertained over the Easter break. It's not the same but it's better than nothing. And I do think it will make us all appreciate being able to visit those attractions once all of this is over.
I think that's quite a good idea. You could plan a morning at the museum, couldn't you, Nina? You know, get your snacks in.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You could do all of that.
We went to Chester Zoo last week and Edinburgh Zoo with the family.
Did you?
And,
What, on the...
Yeah, on the
Online?
watching their cameras.
Did you?
Yeah, it's very clever.
Brilliant.
And Nina mentioned there James Corden. We watched that over the weekend, One Man, Two Governors, and Joseph in his Technicolor Dreamscope. I feel very cultural.
It's very busy, isn't it?